The twin daughters of the wealthy widower never slept through the night until the new black nanny did something that changed everything. But what she was accused of next shocked the entire household. "She's drugging the children," the accusation from Gloria, the longtime housekeeper, echoed through the marble hall like a gunshot in silence. "Mr. Anderson, it's impossible. 2 kids who screamed all night now sleep like angels. She's doing something illegal to your babies." At just 28 years old, Maya Brown stood still in the center of the grand hall, her eyes calm, watching the 60-year-old woman gesture wildly in front of her employer. She wasn't surprised by the accusation. She had expected this moment 3 weeks earlier, when she agreed to care for the 4-year-old twins who had driven every nanny away in tears. Ethan Anderson, a real estate magnate and grieving widower, looked back and forth between his long-time housekeeper and the young black nanny who had turned his chaotic home into a place of peace. For the first time since his wife's death, his daughters Lily and Hope were sleeping 8 straight hours. "Every night, Gloria, these are serious accusations," he whispered, clearly uneasy. "Serious, Mr. Anderson," she spat. "This woman came here with no real references, and suddenly our girls, who cried every night in terror, now sleep like babies. Something isn't right." Maya took a deep breath, meeting Ethan's eyes for a moment. In that look, there was more than gratitude, there was curiosity. Who was this young woman, with refined education and remarkable knowledge of child development, willing to take a job that had broken so many others? "If you insist on questioning my methods," Maya said calmly, "then I suggest we install cameras in the girls' room that way everyone will see exactly what happens at night." The suggestion stunned the hall. A guilty person would never ask for more surveillance. Ethan frowned, studying the nanny's serene face. There was something in her presence, a confidence unshaken, that didn't match a simple babysitter. In recent days, he had noticed other details. Maya spoke 3 languages fluently. She quoted studies on child psychology with academic precision, and her presence alone made even important guests respect her opinions about the children. 3 weeks earlier, when the agency had offered her services, he had been desperate. Have you ever faced a moment where someone's kindness was doubted just because of who they are? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. No? Nanny had lasted more than 2 months. Lily and Hope, still traumatized by the sudden death of their mother in a car crash, spent every night screaming, crying, and refusing to sleep. The entire household was exhausted. Gloria had always made her opinion clear about women like Maya, women who came from outside to care for children of wealthy families. But when Maya arrived, that very first afternoon, something changed instantly. The twins, usually hostile to strangers, walked toward her with curiosity. And that very first night, a miracle, they slept 6 straight hours. "Cameras?" Gloria blurted, shocked by Maya's suggestion. "Well, that's not really necessary if she can just—" "Actually," Maya interrupted calmly, taking her phone from her pocket, "I've already filmed some of our nightly routines to document the girls' progress. Do you want to see?" Silence filled the marble hall. Ethan noticed a subtle shift in Gloria's face, from defiance to something close to panic. Something in that silence felt like a storm waiting to break. In that hall, where generations of privileged families had decided the fates of their staff, Maya stood motionless, as if guarding secrets too powerful to reveal before the right time. But Gloria wasn't ready to back down. In her 15 years serving the Anderson family, she had built a reputation for unshakable loyalty, and she would not let an outsider destroy her privileged place in this household. "Mr. Anderson, you must understand what is happening here," she insisted, walking toward the window, pointing at Lily and Hope, who were playing in the garden for the first time in months. This woman appeared out of nowhere, without proper references from any respectable family. And suddenly she has magical powers with children. Please think about it. Her words carried more fear than logic, but the weight of her tone made the room grow heavy. Ethan looked out at his daughters, running freely on the lawn, their laughter echoing for the first time since their mother's funeral. It was impossible to deny the transformation. They ate regularly, slept 8 hours every night, and had even returned to preschool without panic attacks. Gloria, you may be exaggerating. The girls are being manipulated. Gloria cut him off, raising her voice. And you don't see it, because you are desperate, ready to accept anything. Her accusations grew sharper, like daggers thrown into the air. But I know this type. They arrive pretending to work miracles, then start asking for favors, first a raise, then expensive gifts for their families, and finally access to your accounts. Maya remained still, watching Gloria's dramatic performance with a serene expression, an expression that only made the housekeeper even more furious. The tension was no longer hidden, it was a fuse, burning closer to an explosion. In truth, this reaction was exactly what Maya had expected from the very first day, 3 weeks earlier. When she stepped off the bus at the corner near the Anderson estate, she knew exactly the battlefield she was walking into. She had grown up in Eastbrook, the daughter of a housemaid who worked for wealthy families, and she had witnessed that same pattern again and again. Long-time staff protecting their territory against newcomers, especially when those newcomers didn't fit the profile they considered acceptable. And this time, she knew the fight would be even fiercer. What Gloria didn't know was that Maya Brown held a master's degree in child psychology from a respected university. She had worked as a trauma consultant in several pediatric hospitals, and she had taken this job for reasons that had nothing to do with money. The truth she carried was far heavier than anyone imagined. You know what bothers me the most, Gloria continued, clearly losing her composure. It's her calm. A normal woman would be nervous, being accused of drugging children, but look at her. She just stands there, as if she knows something we don't. Her voice trembled, but the fear behind it was impossible to hide. Ethan frowned. He had to admit, Gloria's words were not entirely wrong. Maya did display a confidence, almost unsettling, like someone who was 3 steps ahead. What could she possibly be hiding? Actually, Maya said softly, I really do know something you don't. The hall went silent. Gloria paled, as if she had touched a truth she wasn't ready to face. The silence was heavy, like a door about to open onto something no one expected. I know that Lily wakes. DuPont 2:30 in the morning? Because she dreams of falling, the same way her mother fell. When the car flipped, Maya continued calmly. I know that Hope refuses to sleep until she has checked that every single door is locked because deep in her mind, the house hasn't felt safe since. Her mother left and never came back. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. How could she know such precise details about his daughter's nightmares? He had never told anyone, not even once, about the accident and the way his wife's body was found. What else did this woman know? And I also know, Maya added, now locking eyes with Gloria, that you've told the other housekeepers in this neighborhood that this family needs someone of higher social standing to take care of the girls. Her words hit like a blade, cutting through the pretense of concern. Very interesting messages in that professional housekeeping WhatsApp group, am I right? Gloria's face turned from pale to red within seconds. How did you? I never. Oh, but you did, Maya said evenly. You even suggested that I was probably here to scam a lonely widower? I can quote your exact messages from last Thursday? The room froze, every breath waiting. On Ethan's reaction, Ethan turned slowly toward Gloria, disbelief spreading across his face. It was true. The housekeeper stammered, clearly shaken. How could this woman have access to her private messages, and why did it feel like she knew exactly which buttons to press? Maya stayed calm, but her eyes glimmered with a light that Gloria finally recognized as danger. Here was a woman not only aware of her secrets, but prepared for this very confrontation. "The truth, Mr. Anderson, is that I accepted this job because your family needs far more than just a nanny, and Gloria," she added with a gentle smile, "has been actively blocking real progress in this house for much longer than you realize." For the first time since he had known his housekeeper, Ethan saw real fear in her eyes, and for the first time since he had hired Maya, he began to suspect that there was far more behind this quiet woman than anyone could imagine. Every accusation, Gloria hurled, only seemed to strengthen Maya, a silent force growing within her, as if every act of disdain was fueling a larger plant that none of them could yet see. "Do you want to know the truth about what is happening in this house?" Maya asked, her voice still calm, a tone now unsettling even Ethan. "Then let's start at the beginning." She walked to the side table and picked up a leather folder Ethan had never noticed before. "Gloria, are you sure you want to continue with these accusations? Because once I open this file, there will be no turning back." The panic in Gloria's eyes was almost tangible now. "Mr. Anderson, she's trying to intimidate us. This is exactly the manipulative behavior I was warning you about," but Ethan was watching closely, fascinated by the transformation unfolding in front of him. The woman he had hired as a nanny was revealing layers that defied every expectation. Maya wasn't just polite, she was strategic. She wasn't just skilled, she was formidable. 3 weeks ago, when I accepted this job, Maya continued, opening the folder, it wasn't because I was desperate for work. It was because I received a very interesting call from someone you know. Well, she played an audio recording from her phone. Dr. Karen Lewis, the pediatrician who has treated Lily and Hope for the past 2 years. She contacted me after Gloria had already called her, questioning my professional credentials before I had even started here. Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. "Gloria, you called." "The girl's pediatrician. I only wanted to check if she knew this woman," Gloria muttered. Gloria stammered, realizing she had walked straight into a trap she never even knew existed. Maya pressed play. The clear voice of Dr. Lewis filled the room. "Gloria, I need to tell you something. Maya Brown is not just a nanny. She holds a master's degree in child psychology and specialized in pediatric trauma. When I heard she had agreed to care for the Anderson twins, I was intrigued. A professional of her level doesn't take a domestic job out of necessity." The silence that followed was broken only by the muffled laughter of the children playing outside. In the garden, Ethan looked at Maya as if seeing her for the first time. "You have a master's degree, University of Michigan. I worked at the Children's Hospital of Eastbrook for 5 years before opening my own trauma clinic," Maya answered with a soft smile. "The real question, Mr. Anderson, is this: would a trauma specialist close a successful clinic to become a nanny?" Gloria was visibly panicked now. "That makes no sense. If you're so qualified, why? Why did I accept a job that pays 10 times less than what I earned before?" Maya finished for her. "Because it was never about money, Gloria. It was about justice." She pulled a set of documents from the leather folder. 6 months ago, Ethan, you fired an employee at your company for so-called cultural incompatibility. Do you remember Marcus Johnson, the black engineer who designed your last housing project?" Ethan frowned, clearly uncomfortable. "Marcus, yes, there were some issues." "The issue," Maya cut in firmly, "was that Gloria suggested to your HR director that employees of his background might not fit the company's image." She placed a document on the table, an email, dated March 3rd, copied to 5 senior managers. Gloria turned pale. "How do you have access to internal company emails?" "Because Marcus Johnson is my brother," Maya said calmly. The revelation hit the room like a bomb, and Ethan froze. The housekeeper he had trusted for 15 years had actively interfered in business decisions driven by racial prejudice, and the woman transforming his daughter's lives was the sister of the man he had unjustly dismissed. Marcus lost his job just days before the birth of his 3rd child. Maya continued, her voice steady but intense. He spent 4 months unemployed, nearly lost his home. His wife suffered postpartum depression without proper treatment because they had no health insurance. "I didn't know," Ethan whispered, his voice filled with genuine shock. "Of course you didn't know," Maya said firmly. "Gloria made sure you would never know." She turned toward the housekeeper. "Because people like you act in the shadows, whispering venom into the ears of those in power, sowing doubt about the abilities of those you choose to dismiss." Gloria tried one last desperate move. "Mr. Anderson, she's here to hurt us. It's a trap. She planned everything. You're right, Gloria. I did plan everything." Maya's smile was calm, but there was a dangerous edge to it, not to harm anyone, but to reveal the truth. "I planned this to show how prejudice works in families like this, how it creeps into every decision, from the household to the company boardroom." She lifted her phone. "Every conversation from the past 20 days has been recorded with your legal consent. I informed you on my first day that I document my work professionally. Every racist comment, every attempt to sabotage, every time you tried to interfere with my bond with the children." Ethan watched in silence as Gloria seemed to collapse before his eyes. The woman he had respected as a pillar of his household was now exposed as someone driven by deep and dangerous prejudice. The twins sleep peacefully because they finally have someone who understands childhood trauma, Maya explained, not because of medication, but because they are cared for by a professional who recognizes the signs of unresolved grief in young children. She closed the folder and locked eyes with Ethan. "The question now is this: what will you do with this information? Will you continue allowing people like Gloriato influence your decisions about your employees and even about your own daughters?" At that moment, Lily and Hope burst into the room, their cheeks still red from playing outside. "Daddy, Maya, we found a bird's nest in the oak tree." The innocent glow of their joy clashed sharply. With the heavy tension in the room, Maya knelt to greet them, and Ethan watched his daughter press against her with trust, a trust it had taken months to build with any adult after their mother's death. For a brief moment, as he watched the scene, his daughter's finally happy, his longtime housekeeper revealed as prejudiced, and the woman who had saved his family standing for justice on behalf of her brother, Ethan realized something. He was standing in the middle of a lesson on how privilege and power can be used to keep injustice alive or to finally set it right. But what neither Ethan nor Gloria yet knew was that Maya had documented far more than conversations and messages. She had uncovered connections between Gloria's domestic prejudice and the discriminatory practices inside the Anderson Corporation, links that went far beyond her brother's case, and once exposed, they would not just end a career. They could reshape how the entire business elite of this city thought about social responsibility and the cost of their bias. The arrival of the twins, momentarily, broke the tension, but Maya knew this was the very moment she had been preparing for. "Lily, Hope, why don't you show Daddy and Gloria the drawing you made yesterday about our evening routine?" The girls ran off happily to fetch their picture, leaving the three adults in a heavy silence. Gloria seized the pause to make one final desperate strike. "Mr. Anderson, she's manipulating the children. This is proof that—" "Gloria," Maya interrupted softly, lifting her tablet. "Are you sure you want to continue? Because I still have 15 minutes of recordings from Ruby's birthday party last month, where you told Mrs. Henderson that people like me should never be allowed near children from traditional families." Gloria's face drained of all color. That birthday party had been a major social event, attended by at least 20 elite families, if those recordings ever came out. "I also have your posts in the high executive WhatsApp group," Maya continued, scrolling through the screen, "where you shared photos of me without permission and speculated about my so-called true intentions toward this family." Ethan stepped forward and took the tablet from Maya's hands. His face hardened as he read through the messages. "Gloria, you shared pictures of my daughter's nanny with strangers. You discussed our private life openly, Mr. Anderson. I was only being cautious. Ethan's voice rose sharply. You violated my family's privacy, you leaked personal information, and you even dared to interfere with my business decisions based on racial prejudice. Maya watched the scene with quiet satisfaction. She had planned each revelation carefully, knowing Ethan's pride as both a father and a businessman would become the sharpest weapon against Gloria's toxic influence. But that wasn't all, she said, opening another file on her tablet. Gloria, do you remember recommending the dismissal of 3 black employees from the Anderson Company over the past 2 years, always under so-called technical reasons? Silence weighed. Heavy Ethan stared at his housekeeper as if seeing her for the very first time, Jennifer Watson, a financial analyst. Fired after you suggested that people like her wouldn't fit with the company's conservative culture. David Miller, an architect, was reassigned to the least prestigious department after Gloria remarked that he fit better with the client profile. And, of course, my brother Marcus, how do you even have access to these internal files? Ethan asked, truly perplexed. Because after Marcus was fired, I began systematically investigating the reasons for dismissals at your company. Maya explained. I discovered that Gloria was in regular contact with at least 5 members of your HR department, feeding them information about employees based on her observations during social gatherings and family events. Maya showed a detailed chart. Over the past 3 years, 16 Black or Latino employees were either terminated or demoted at Anderson Industries. In 60% of the cases, there was an email or a phone call from Gloria in the files, always suggesting cultural concerns or questions about whether they could fit in. Ethan dropped heavily into a chair, running his hands through his hair. My God, Gloria, is this true? The housekeeper finally broke down. I only wanted to protect the family's reputation. People like them don't understand our values, our traditions, our values, Ethan exploded. What values? Discrimination, prejudice, destroying the lives of qualified people because of the color of their skin. At that moment, Lily and Hope came running back in, holding up their drawings. Look, this is Maya reading us a story, Rose shouted proudly, showing a colorful drawing of a black woman sitting between 2 smiling children, and this one, Ruby added, she's teaching us about the stars, pointing at a picture, where Maya lifted a hand toward the night sky, while the twins watched in wonder. The innocence of the drawings clashed brutally with the toxic reality that had just been exposed in the room. Ethan looked at his daughters, finally happy, finally sleeping peacefully, finally safe. And he realized the full weight of the injustice he had allowed to grow under his own roof. Gloria, he said, his voice steady but relentless. You are dismissed. I want you to leave this house today, Mr. Anderson, please. 15 years of service. 15 years of influencing my decisions with your prejudice, he corrected firmly. 15 years of sabotaging capable employees. 15 years of poisoning the atmosphere in both my home and my company. Maya pulled one last folder from her bag. Ethan, there is something else you need to know. Gloria didn't just influence firings. She also blocked hirings. She laid out a stack of resumes. 23. Highly qualified candidates rejected in the last 2 years. After Gloria made informal background checks on their families and origins, among them 2 engineers from MIT, an award-winning architect, and an analyst with an MBA from Harvard, all Black or Latino, Ethan murmured, examining the resumes. Professionals who could have brought significant contributions to the company. Exactly. Meanwhile, less qualified candidates, those who fit Gloria's so-called profile, were hired with higher salaries and better positions. Gloria tried one last desperate plea. Mr. Anderson, she planned all of this. It's a conspiracy against me. A conspiracy. Maya laughed softly. Gloria, it would be a conspiracy if I had invented your own words, forged your emails, created fake WhatsApp messages, but all I did was document and organize your very own actions. Ethan turned to his daughters, who were watching the adults in confusion. Girls, why don't you go play in the garden? while we finish this conversation. Once the children had left, he faced Gloria one final time. You have 1 hour to pack your things. I don't want to see you on this property again. And the company? Maya asked quietly. Ethan drew a deep breath. Tomorrow morning, I'll order a full audit off every hiring and firing procedure from the past 3 years. Every employee wronged will be contacted and offered reinstatement or compensation. Gloria stumbled out of the room, completely defeated. 15 years of influence. And power collapsed in less than an hour, destroyed by the evidence of her own discrimination. Maya watched her go, feeling a deep but controlled satisfaction. This wasn't cruelty. This was justice, served with surgical precision. Why? Ethan finally asked. When they were alone. Why go through all this? Why take care of my daughters? Why face these prejudices just to expose Gloria? Because injustice left unchallenged is injustice repeated, Maya answered simply. And because Lily and Hope deserve to grow up in a home where competence means more than the color of their skin. But there was one last revelation, something neither Ethan nor Gloria had known. Maya had uncovered evidence that Gloria's prejudice at home was tied to a much larger network of systematic exclusion, a network spread across the city's elite, and it was about to transform not just one family, but an entire corporate culture built on unquestioned privilege. 6 months later, the transformation of the twins' lives was just one small part of a much greater revolution. Maya had orchestrated in silence. Marcus Johnson sat proudly in his new office at Anderson Industries, now serving as Director of Sustainable Development, a role created specifically to harness his expertise in inclusive housing projects. His salary was 40% higher than his previous one, and he had been granted equity in the company as compensation for the months of unemployment. I still can't believe my sister did all this, he admitted to Ethan during one of the new weekly meetings that now always included real discussions about diversity in the company. She had planned every step for months. Ethan smiled as he looked out the window at the new community garden the company had built on the neighboring lot, a project led by 3 employees who had been reinstated after the audit. Your sister didn't just save my daughters, he said softly. She saved my company from becoming obsolete in a world that no longer tolerates systematic discrimination. The full audit had revealed an even deeper problem than Ethan had imagined. 23 employees were reinstated or compensated fairly. 5 supervisors who had actively supported discriminatory practices were dismissed, and the company introduced a new blind recruitment protocol where resumes were reviewed without photos or details that could reveal ethnic background. Gloria, on the other hand, learned that 15 years of influence built on prejudice was not enough to secure a strong network. None of the elite families rehired her after Maya's recording circulated quietly through the WhatsApp groups of house staff. She now worked at a chain hotel, earning less than half of what she had once made at the Anderson estate. The most impressive part, Ethan added, is that she never wanted to destroy anyone. She wanted to transform the system. Maya had declined Ethan's offer to become a permanent consultant for the company. Instead, she chose to use her experience to launch a consulting firm specialized in identifying and correcting institutional bias. Her very first client was a hospital network facing lawsuits for racial discrimination. In its services, Lily and Hope, now 5 years old, attended a more diverse school. Ethan had chosen intentionally to broaden their world. Maya still visited them twice a week, no longer as a nanny, but as Aunt Maya, the woman who had turned their nightmare into a peaceful dream and taught them that families are built with love, not with prejudice. Daddy, will Aunt Maya come for my birthday? Rose asked one morning at breakfast, her hand holding the little star necklace she never took off. Of course, Princess, and Uncle Marcus, too, Ethan replied, still amazed at how natural it felt to call Maya's brother family. The true measure of Maya's success was not in the impressive numbers of her consulting firm, nor in the 23 employees reinstated at Anderson Industries. Her true success was in the call she received just last week. A young black mother from Chicago had heard her interview on a social justice podcast. "My son is 6, she said. He's facing discrimination at school. The teachers say he's a problem, but I know he's smart. Can you help me document what's happening?" Maya smiled as she opened a fresh notebook. "Let's start at the beginning. Tell me everything you've noticed, because the best revenge is not destroying those who hurt you, but building bridges where there were only walls, creating opportunities where there was once exclusion, turning pain into determination." Ethan Anderson had learned that privilege without awareness is a dangerous weapon, but privilege with purpose can rewrite entire stories. Gloria had tried to use prejudice as power, but she discovered that hate only builds castles of sand. Maya used her intelligence as a weapon for justice and built an impact that would last for generations. If this story of transformation through courage has touched you, subscribe to the channel, because sometimes changing the world begins with one person brave enough to document the truth and strategic enough to use it with surgical precision.